I'm definitely going to talk about that in the next in the future one. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. It's 2:02. For those that showed up on time, I appreciate that. Everybody else, we'll make sure to get the recording. So let's just start the introduction. Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Pedone. I'm the founder of salesbuzz.com. If you don't know who I am, I've been a straight commission inside sales rep for, oh man, I want to say just forever. I'm gonna be 55 in August, so you do the math, right? I mean, I'm an OG cold caller, like total boiler room type atmosphere. As a matter of fact, the sales technique I'm going to teach you today, it was a critical step to me becoming really good at what I was doing at this one company I was at. And just for background, I always think it's important, and let me just share this with you guys. Anytime you take sales advice, you always have to take it with a grain of salt. I see all these posts on LinkedIn, these people posting these sales tips that I know are full of crap. They're bullshit. They're not going to work long term. And everybody gets all these likes. I think the majority of the time, people are telling you what you want to hear just so they can get likes and become popular. But then the techniques aren't transferring into dollars in your pocket. So it's really important that if you take some sales advice, you really analyze it on your own and not just take it at face value because everybody else is liking it. And today's sales technique is going to be no different. So if you don't know who I am, I think it's important that you know a little bit about my background, and then I'll share this technique with you, and I think it'll help a lot of you. But with that being said, as I said already, I've been a straight commission inside sales rep forever and a day. And it wasn't by choice, right? I never went to college. I barely graduated high school. There's a whole reason for that. I mean, broken home, rough childhood growing up, the whole nine yards, but no excuses. At the end of the day, I did not want to go ahead and, struggle when I got older and then to have my family go through what I had to go through and what my brothers and my mom had to go through. I wanted to be able to provide a great living. And since I wasn't able to go to college, and like I said, I barely graduated high school. School's just not for me. It's just I learned better by doing, but that's a whole other subject. But I got into sales as a lifeline, and the thing that I loved about sales is that the better you get at your sales techniques, as long as you're coachable and you have drive, you'll be very successful in sales. And one of the things I loved about the sales is that there was no glass ceiling as far as how much I could earn. And so I was able to become wildly successful year after year, so much so that I had so much confidence at one point in my sales skills and my ability of being in boiler room situations where literally if for others you don't know what a boiler room is, first of all, I would recommend you go watch the movie Boiler Room or The Wolf of Wall Street or any of those types of movies. What was the Will Smith one? Something Happiness, right? All those things they were based on real true scenarios that I actually lived in these sales rooms where you had a phone and you had leads. You didn't have a CRM, you didn't have LinkedIn, you didn't have all the internet wasn't even invented yet for the most part. You had to pick up the phone and make calls. And if you can do that and become wildly successful at that, just imagine how great you'll be once you work for a company or you start sourcing where you start getting inbound warm leads. Okay. Because the reality of the situation is this is the best sales process to follow that's going to get you the highest close rate, that's going to take the least amount of stress off you and have the least amount of resistance when you're actually selling to somebody. The sales path is exactly the same for cold calling and as well as following up and handling warm inbound leads. Most people don't realize that, but they're actually the same. If they don't realize that, it's because they don't know the actual steps. So one of the steps I want to talk about today is how to make sure your demos are crushing it, because too many sales reps, and as a perfect case in point, the reason why I wanted to bring this up, I was an inbound warm lead for this company that I was interested in learning more about their solution. When it came, we set up the demo. They really didn't ask many questions about what my use case point was. And when they went through the demo, they bored me to tears from end to end, showing me all the little things that they had to do and what their product or service could do. And I never bought. I couldn't wait to get off the phone. And that's not just a once in a while sales thing. That happens every day. Probably happens every day in your company where you have sales reps when they're doing the demo and they just go from start to finish. And then, they try to go for a close or whatever, and then they have to put a proposal and they send it out and then they get ghosted or they put it in pipeline thinking that they're going to get a deal and very few come back. Am I off base here? Does it sound familiar at all or no? You can use your chat box, right? So I have a solution that'll help minimize those scenarios from happening. And it's all, first of all, the thing that you have to understand is that The way you're going to become wildly successful at selling is you have to know what questions to ask, when to ask them, how to ask them, why to ask them, and then what to do with the responses that you get. Think of selling as it's almost like baseball, except there's more than four steps, but you can compartmentalize it in that. So if I'm baseball, every time you pick up the phone, you're in the batter's box, and your objective is to get to first. And then once you get there safely, then you got to get to second base first, right? You can't in baseball if you can't hit the ball, even if you hit a double, you can't run from home plate across pitcher's mound to second. You got to go in order. Now you can speed that up or you can slow it down depending on your prospect, but most sales reps don't even know the steps. Now, with that being said, today's short webinar is on a very specific thing. It's about how to help you close more deals from your demos. And this one question I'm going to share with you, I have to give you the backstory. So I'm here in Clearwater, Florida, and I'm working at this organization. They hire 20 reps a week. Usually they only get one that makes it, 4 weeks. That's how come they hire so many. They just hiring them, they put them through the training, and sink or swim. It's all straight commission. I was one of the ones that made it through that, that hell week or whatever, and I kept moving on. But then I plateaued while I was working there. Again, this is straight commission, so if I don't sell anything, there's not going to be any food on the table. It's not a good feeling to have. With that being said, I remember this like it was yesterday. I was there was this. I went up to my general manager's desk. So if I can't paint you a picture, think of a boiler room, 80 desks, 80 sales reps in there, and then you had one grand poobah desk at the front of it where the sales manager was, right? They're actually the general manager. Each little pod had their own individual sales managers for those groups. But anyway, what ended up happening was I had to go up to talk to my GM once, and as I was walking up there, I saw this magazine on his desk. It was called the Selling Power magazine. If you don't know about it, I mean, it's old, I get it, but we're going back in the 90s, right? So I saw he had this magazine called Selling Power magazine. I asked if I could borrow it. He goes, "Yeah, you could have it." And, I mean, there's 80 other reps in here. Nobody's even asked me to look at it. You're the first one to come and ask me to look at it, so sure, go ahead. So I read it cover to cover. There was an article in there, and it was some sales rep. I wish I knew who it was. I could give him credit to this day, but he had this one question that was in there. And at the time, I was working for a company that sold computer diagnostics to IT tech firms, things of that nature. And we just came out with a new CBT system, computer-based learning. They were on CD discs. I mean, I'm really dating myself here, right? With you guys, I was literally selling CD-ROMs, the first edition CD-ROMs, so people can get MCSE and Novell certified. For those of you that don't know, that's a certification for IT networks and things of that nature. So we were at the time, the only way that they could get certified was to go in person and train. It was 10 grand to go through it. It was after work. It was very intensive. A lot of people couldn't afford it, et cetera. And we were selling these CD discs to help them pass the exams for $1,000. But I was struggling to sell them. I happened to read this magazine, and in there was this one article, and there was somebody. It was a totally different industry, but they asked this. They were explaining how they asked this one question before they do a demo. And even this is important because even though it was a totally different industry, that's the thing. The sales questions are the same no matter what industry you're in. They can work and transfer no matter what it is. But he shared this one question that had a huge impact on his close rate. And after doing a demo, he started closing a bunch of more business. The question was very simple. It was right before they started the demo. They asked this question. Write this down. Okay. You guys ready? And you can change it a little bit, but here was the gist of it. So, Mr. Prospect, before we get started, let me ask you a question. What are the top three features you'd like to see in this product? What are the top three features you'd like to see in this product? The results were amazing because what ended up happening was I followed all the other steps to get to that point, right? So in other words, I cold call, I pique interest, I gain permission to continue the call. I ask my questions to get problem recognition. Once I get problem recognition, I uncover other than themselves who else is involved in the decision-making process. Right from there, time frame, how soon would you like to, start earning more money by getting certified, right? Those kind of things. Get it all up there. And then before I get to the prices, I always want to give price before I give a presentation, but We could talk about that at another time. But what I was doing is I would get all those questions out and everything is checkboxed. And then, okay, you know what? I think I have something that'll solve this for you. Let me show you how it does. And so I would skip over this question and I would get right to the presentation. And marketing told us that they want to know about this, they want to know about this, they want to know about this. We're showing them all the bells and whistles. Stop me if you've heard this before, where either marketing or your sales manager tells you that you want to go ahead and you want to go ahead and provide as much value, build as much value by showing them everything that your product or service can do. Yeah, you guys heard that before, right? You've been trained that way to do that. The problem is you start talking about things that they don't care about, that are not as important to them. What do you think happens? What do you put yourself in their shoes? You want to see a demo on something, and the sales rep starts talking about things that you don't care about. Your mind starts to wander, right? So yeah, right, Paul. So not only do they disengage, but worse is they start wondering if they could find something else out there that maybe doesn't have all those features, because maybe they're overpaying for things that they don't want. So now, when you think you're building value in your presentation, and when you're listing all these features, what you're actually doing is you're doing the opposite of what your presentation is designed to do. By the way, anybody know what your presentation, when you're giving a presentation, what is the purpose of a presentation? Anybody know? What is the objective? You're giving a presentation. What's the reason for giving a presentation? The purpose, okay, no, it's not to find the pain, Ash, because the pain we have to do in qualifying. Again, this is what, and I'm going to just, I'm not going to be, I'm not trying to be an ass here, but 99% of the sales reps that are out there selling today, they have a misunderstanding of what qualifying is, and that's why they're struggling when it comes to the close rate. I don't have time to get into that right now, but the pain has to be, that's one of the first things you have to do in qualifying is you have to uncover the pain points, because the pain, if there's no pain, that means there's no problem. If there's no problem, there's no reason for a solution. So let's say you uncover the pain, you uncover their process, the purchasing process, you're speaking to the right person, etc., the time frame, all that stuff. You're going to be getting ready to do the presentation. You have to ask this question here to improve your presentation. Again, I'll cover that in a second. But the reason for doing a presentation is to create an opportunity to close. That is the only reason to give a presentation. That has to be your mindset. All the other check boxes have to be done before you're willing to give a presentation. So when it's time to give a presentation, the only reason why you should be giving a presentation is to create an opportunity to close. Does that make sense? And see, this is what you don't learn from other sales reps and so other sales platforms or trainers or instructors. If they've never worked as a straight commission sales rep, if they were getting paid regardless of what they did, it's going to be really hard for that person to really learn the best of the best sales techniques. Because when you're a straight commission sales rep, it's a zero sum game. If you're not putting numbers on the board, it's your technique or it's your effort. That's really what it comes down to. So you really have to become sharp and learn the best of the best. You don't want to use mediocre sales processes. So what I ended up finding out was when I added that one question into my process, which by the way, the company I was working for, it wasn't part of their sales script, right? This is back in the day. It was like, okay, here's a phone, here's leads, here's your script, go. Right. So what I ended up doing is I adjusted the sales script and I added that one question in there because I knew my objective for doing a presentation was to create an opportunity to close. I need to create an opportunity to close. If I'm giving them, trying to build value by going over every little thing that the product or service does, I wasn't closing anything. I was talking about things they didn't care about, or I made them think, well, maybe they should look elsewhere to see if they can find something that's a little less, that doesn't have all the bells and whistles. When I read that article and then I took that question back and I customized it for my vertical and I started asking that question before we did the presentation, what are the top three things that's most important to you? And there's another way. What are the top three things most important to you when selecting a solution to solve X? Right? That's another way you could ask that question. But the basis was always, what are the top three features you'd like to see in this product or this demo or this service? And then you shut up and you listen. All of a sudden, you know how they always say you're supposed to build rapport, right? I totally disagree with that in sales, right? You're never supposed to try to build rapport up front. I let rapport happen naturally. Rapport is never a check mark on the in the sales process. It should happen naturally as you go through it. And when you ask the right questions for the right way, in the right tone, for the right reasons, at the right time, it's a two-way street. The rapport will happen naturally. And can you imagine if you're interested in a solution and a sales rep asks you, what are the top three features that are most important to you when selecting a solution to solve this? you're naturally going to be gravitating to them. Be like, hey, they're trying to help me solve this. I'm so glad you asked. This is what's most important to me. And then so what you do is you write those three things down and then feed it back to them, but put it in your own words. Okay, so you said you want something that'll do this, this, and this. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. Just out of curiosity, I understand this and this. This one's really interesting to me. What is it about this? That's why is that one most important to you? Why'd that make the list? Well, that made the list because of blah 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 blah. Got it. Totally understand. So doing XYZ or achieve XYZ is super important. Yes. I mean, you're getting a plethora of hot buttons and emotions in on this, and then guess what? Then you can go, okay, go. So so here's the thing. Based on everything you told me, here's the good news: is it's not going to be any more than this, but it won't be any less than this. So your price range, if you end up liking our solution, will be between this and this. If you like what we have to offer, is that doable for you? They can only answer one of three ways: yes, no, or maybe. If it's yes, okay, cool, and you move forward. You don't try to. You're not closing them there. We haven't done the presentation. We just qualified them on a price range. Guess what? They can't say now. They can't say after the presentation, "Oh, I can't afford it," or "It's not in the budget," right? Because we pre-qualified on that. Now, if they say no, then you simply ask, just out of question, when you say no, there's really two types of no's. There's no, I couldn't afford that if my life depended on it, and there's the no, I probably could find something else better elsewhere for less. Which no are we dealing with here? And if it's the latter, they go, I think I might be able to find something else better for less money elsewhere. Listen, you might be able to. I'm not sure. But my real question to you is once you do all your research and your homework, if you make the decision that our solution is the one that you have to have, and it's between this price range, is it doable for you in that scenario? If they come back and go, well, yeah, in that scenario, that's all I'm asking. Okay, let me do this. Let me tell you a little bit about it. I'll answer any questions you have. If you like what you hear, we can take it from there. Fair enough? They go, okay, sure. And now you go do your demo or your presentation, and guess what? Here's how you start it. So you know what? Earlier, Alonzo, you mentioned to me that XYZ was important to you. Let me show you how we helped another company solve that with that solution and get that benefit here. And then you focus on that one scenario. And then as you're wrapping that one scenario up, you simply say something simple like, sound good? So far, so good? Make sense? Right? Any type of tie down like that, but you're not doing it to try to trick them. You're asking it and you're not moving on to the next thing right away. You ask the question and you have to wait to hear how they respond. You have to gauge, was there yes a green light, or was there yes a yellow or red light, right? If they go, yeah, that makes total sense. All right, cool. Now you also mentioned, and then you bring up the other thing. Let me show that to you, and you go to that, and it's rinse and repeat for those three things. And then you get to wrap up the presentation early. You focus on those three things. You're going to close so much more business than if you would try to go ahead and cover all the other little things that are out there that would bore them to tears and are not important to them. Somebody's asking, by the way, they're asking, so what happens if they say maybe on the price range? So on the price range, so again, it's yes, no, or maybe. If it's yes, you just move on. If it's no, you find out what type of no it is. And if it's maybe, you just go, when you say maybe, do you mean like if you hit the lottery tomorrow, or do you mean maybe if you see the value and you decide this is the right fit? Which maybe are we dealing with here? And you go, oh, it's the latter. If I think it's the right thing, it would be, okay, cool. That's all I'm asking, right? So you get all that stuff out of the way, and now you focus on the three things that they told you was most important to them. You do it one step at a time. Before you move on from the one step to the next, you ask a simple tie down question and you make sure that they're with you. Listen to how they say it. 2 + 2 has to equal 4 here. What I mean by that is when I say 2 + 2, their tone has to match their words. If they say yes, but it's like, yeah, let me give you an example. Hey, John, does that sound like this is what you're looking for? Yeah, sure. That's a yellow. That's yellow. Definitely a yellow. It might even be a red light, but it's a yellow light, right? So you know what I say to that? You know what? It doesn't really sound like you're 100% sure about this one area. You might ask why that is, and let them go, oh no, no, it's totally, it's what I wanted. Or those go, um, yeah, well, the reason why I'm not sure is this. Now, let me ask you a question. When would you rather know that they weren't jiving with something that you were saying in your demo? Would you rather do the whole demo and then try to go for a close and then they even forgot why they didn't like it, but now they have a sour taste and then you're chasing them forever? Or would you rather find out right then and there? I mean, it's a rhetorical question. We all want to find out in real time right then and there, because here's the thing, again, that consultative approach. You know what? It doesn't really sound like you're 100% sure in this. Do you mind if I ask why that is? Well, I'm just not sure. I think we tried something like that before and it just didn't work out with us. Well, John, you know what? I'm super glad you're telling me that now, because listen, the last thing you want to do is make the same mistake twice, let alone pay for the same mistake twice. Am I right? Yeah, I don't want to do that. Okay, great. So one, let me show you how we had a workaround for that scenario, and let me see if you like this better. Is that fair enough? Yeah, okay. Okay, so you mentioned you tried this for and it didn't work because this and this. Here's what we do in that scenario. And now you show another piece that would solve that problem. But you would have never known that if you didn't follow the sales process the way I'm teaching you here. You have to ask that one question. What are the top three things you'd like to see in this demo? Get out of this demo. Most important to you, and top three things most important to you in this demo, right? Something along those lines. You get that out. You write them down. You feed it back to make sure you understood it. And then as you're going through the presentation, you bring them up one at a time. You ask the tie downs. You listen to how they respond. This is what I'm saying. You have to know what to say, when to say it, how to say it, why to say it. When you master these things, you start crushing it in sales. Okay. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering, why am I doing this webinar for free and giving this information away? It's self-serving, guys. I sell a course. I have all this stuff online, right? So we're going to wrap this up because I promise you it's a 20-minute webinar. If you have any interest in learning all of my sales techniques from start to finish, you can go to salesbuzz.com, fill out the quote request form. We'll send you some information on how to even set you up on a demo, and we'll take it from there. And if that's not you, but you can still get something out of this, I totally love it. Just spread the word. And what I can share with you is this, is there is only one best way to sell. And I know that is, I don't want to say arrogant or whatever, but just think about this logically. If you had to work as a straight commission sales rep for 30 plus years, you want to find the best way to do it, correct? And so the thing I love about the sales, I call it, you can call it a talk track, you can call it a roadmap, you can call it whatever it is. That little technique that I just shared with you, I have the whole system that I use from openers all the way to close. I follow this path. It's conversational, but it's intentional. And what ends up happening is there's a lot less stress on me, a lot less stress on the prospects. There's a lot less ghosting. The sales cycles are shorter and I close a lot more. And this can happen for everybody, but you need to have two things. One, you have to have drive and you have to be coachable. And for the HR managers or the sales managers that are in here, if your team is struggling, if you have sales reps on your team who are uncoachable, you I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'll tell you what I would do. I would fire them right away. And by the way, this is not just me coming up and saying I have a course that works and buy it, right? Without any proof. As a straight commission inside sales rep, back in 2001, 2002-ish, you remember when the dot-com bomb was happening, right? I went ahead and started my own business. It was a marketing company. I had no business starting a company, never knew how, but I had this idea and I was passionate about it and I knew how to sell. I actually left a job that I was getting paid a salary for and started my own business. I had no funding, I had no savings in the bank or whatever. I just started it and I worked till 3 a.m. every night. I did a full-time job and then I would work till 3 a.m. on this stuff and get a couple hours sleep and do it, rinse and repeat. And I did that until my full-time job was costing me money. And then I went and did that, and I was able to, even in a down market when everybody was crashing from the dot-com bomb, I was able to still get a lead list, pick up the phone, cold call prospects, and start closing deals for my marketing company. And then 5 years later, I was fortunate enough, it was such a good company that I had running, a company from Sweden came over and made me a seven-figure cash buyout. From there, I took a little time off, as anybody else would, and I said, what do I want to do next? I had a couple business ideas. My number one passion is this. I know what it feels like to have the phone feel like a 25-pound weight. You just don't want to pick it up anymore. And I know what I did differently and what I learned. And when I put all the pieces to the puzzle together, and it was a repeatable process. Every time I pick up the phone, I start here. And when I get a green light, I go here. And when I get a green light, I go here. And if I end up getting a yellow light, I handle it to either flip it to green or I flip it to red. If it flips to red, the call ends. It's fine. My job as a sales rep, excuse me, my job as a sales rep is not to close every deal or every lead I come across. It's not my job. My job is to close as many qualified prospects as fast as possible. So if I get a red light, they're not qualified. I don't cry about it. End the call, move on. All right. With that being said, guys, we have to bounce. I did promise you 20 minutes. So, excuse me, sorry about that. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn or just go to salesbuzz.com. I'll be more than happy to help you. I think I'm going to do these at least once a month. So if you're on the newsletter list, don't be surprised if you get something in next month like this. All right. Take care, guys. We'll see you.